I'm going to tell you about the test matrix, why it is used and when, and I'm going to show you a few examples. You'll see that the organization of testing is quite formal. Before you start anything, you design your lesson, course, module, or curriculum on the basis of a taxonomy. You decide on the learning objectives that the students should have achieved at the end, and you formulate them very specifically so they will guide you through the whole process of designing an appropriate test and a relevant teaching and learning process. There are several taxonomies that you can choose to use. Bloom is widely used and covers mainly cognitive learning. D. Fink's taxonomy of significant learning also covers cognitive learning but integrates regulative and affective dimensions such as study skills and ethics. Big's solo taxonomy is about teaching and learning. Klakenack designed his taxonomy to use for teaching languages, and Ramazovsky focuses on knowledge and skills. When testing skills, a rubric comes into place. Rubrics help to make marking more objective. There are basically three types. You've got the holistic rubric, which is easy to use for the teacher when marking large quantities, but it does not offer the student much feedback. Then you have the analytic rubric. It offers the student a lot of feedback, but it's time-consuming to design and use for the teacher. It is useful when you need to be precise, but it can also be quite restrictive for the student. You have the single-point rubric, and it offers the student more room to excel and to get more personal feedback. It is less work for the teacher to design, but a little more to use. However, you need to think about what you're testing and why before you design a rubric. Testing has effects on the teaching and learning processes. When you have a good, solid test, the backwash, which is the effect of the testing on the teaching and learning before the test, is beneficial. Then, teaching to the test is no problem at all. However, when a test is not valid, that is, it does not measure the intended learning objectives, testing has a harmful backwash effect, and maybe even a harmful spin-off effect. So we need to plan very carefully what we're testing. In comes the test matrix, which is basically a blueprint in table form that gives the reader the most important characteristics of a test: the learning objectives, the level on which the learning objectives are tested, and the distribution of the number of tasks or questions over the learning objectives. This is what a test matrix could look like. Here you see an overview of the learning objectives, or outcomes as they are called here. In this example, there are a total of 10 questions or tasks that are quite equally distributed over the learning objectives. And you see that they have used Bloom's taxonomy to distinguish between the learning levels. And looking at the number of tasks that are under the higher order thinking skills dimensions, we can conclude that this test focuses on lower order thinking skills. You design a test matrix before designing a test because it will offer support and structure for the design of the actual test. It helps you with fairly distributing the questions or tasks over the learning objectives so that it is a representative test. A test matrix gives you overview and structure to create different but similar tests for resets and to maintain a similar level over the years. You can use it to justify your choices of the content of the test to students, colleagues, managers, or inspection. And the test matrix offers the student transparency, an overview of the importance of the different parts of the module. And overall, the test matrix gives an idea of the validity of a test. So, when looking at the total process of designing a lesson series, course, module, or curriculum, we always start with defining the intended learning outcomes as they give direction to educational activities and testing. The more concrete they are formulated, the more support they offer in your teaching. The type and level of the learning outcomes is a decisive factor for the content, form, criteria, and grading of the test. And this is when you design a test matrix. Before designing the test, before designing a rubric, before teaching. So, good luck designing your own test matrix.